the leading headline stories making news all this week. Who else to talk about it better than Edwin Obuya, always in on time. I understand Philip Mruto is on a bit of a likizo, but we've got the very reliable Fanya Mambo Kinodia, who's been smiling the last 3 weeks. Everything he's said has come to pass.
Yes.
You're smiling this
I'm
week.
a very happy man. Anguka nini Adani ilianguka pungulu.
But that was a shock, Obuya, wasn't it?
Ilianguka pakajichora kamuhindi hapo kamutu hivi.
It just showed how the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in this government, because in the morning the expert from ODM was saying that Adani, the case will not affect what Adani's business deals were happening in this country, and Opio was categorical. They are going to continue with the Adani deal, the Ketraco deal. He said they haven't seen anything wrong in the country with Adani. Just 2 hours, 3 hours later, for his boss to come and say, I've cancelled the Adani deal. It just shows the confusion that exists in this government.
And didn't Baba say that Adani ni mweupe kama pamba?
Yeah, the Adani thing was a shame, and anybody who was involved in it should be thoroughly ashamed of themselves. That really is something that should never have even found itself in this country, and it's a conversation we should never have had as a country. Now, I've had people praising and clapping for the president for cancelling Adani. I asked them, you bring us a problem that we have told you severally, this is a problem we don't want as a country. And then the problem, you come and remove the problem, and we are supposed to celebrate you. No. We are supposed to tell you, for the time you've caused us immeasurable pain trying to fight against Adani, compensate some of us who went on TV all the time saying this Adani thing should not be there. So I think it's a good time to be alive, to see that this has come to an end. Now we are focusing our guns on Shah, Shif and whatever and Taifa.
Shah, Shif,
hizo tukishamaliza hizo sasa Kenya inaanza kurudi poa. I hope they won't bring another scandalous thing.
But like Obuya says, if it wasn't for the New York indictment, this man will be, running around
with some small change.
It wasn't for Trump's
billion. Our parliament works nowadays, because if parliament could not stop the Adani deal, if parliamentarians could stand up to clap for president for just saying that I've stopped this Adani deal, and they have the under the law they have the power to stop that deal, they would have stopped that deal. But now they wameshikwa ile mahali they cannot wriggle themselves out of how they have been held somewhere. And so it just shows you how inept our parliament is, that they cannot do what they're supposed to do, that they are waiting on the executive to give directions. In a working democracy, parliament has a very high place. It could have stopped that deal if they wanted to, but our parliament right now is in the armpits of the executive.
The headline in today's Business Daily says
it says Adani terms 637 billion lost in Kenya deal immaterial.
637 billion.
It is immaterial. It's only equivalent to 0.004% of Adani's group sales.
When you think about it, how much did he spend? That's why he's saying what he spent is immaterial. It is true, what he spent is immaterial, because amenyanganyana mingi sana wherever else. What he has brought into this country so far is nothing. We have not received any money from Adani. So he has lost nothing.
You as a person.
Yeah, you yourself.
As a country.
Kuna wengine wamekula.
Wale walinunua maristu warudishe.
There are people who have eaten well from Adani.
Wao warudishe. Warudishe mapema. Itawanyonga.
Watarudisha aje? Wamespend.
Wataiba yenye warudishe, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But something needs to be done. They have to take individual responsibility. If there's any money they took, you see the good thing, in law there's something called privity of contract. We are not privy to any contract that was signed between these people and Adani, wherever it was signed. So if there's going to be any compensation, I am offering myself as Fanyamambo, number one, to bring the first petition in court to say that compensation has to come from the private pockets of those people. It cannot come from the pockets of this republic. So tukijaribu kusikia Kenya inaenda kutoa pesa ya kucompensate any of those Adani deals, I'll be the first to move to court. Straight. Hata tutakuwa tunamalizia kuandikia petition, nitakuwa na sign signature tukipanda stairs za pale kwenda kufile. Because we cannot have a situation where money has moved into pockets of people to which ideas we are not aware, we were not privy to those contracts, and then we are being told to pay as a country. No, we will not accept. Hiyo itatoka individual pockets. Kama mtu ataenda auze ng'ombe zake ama kuku ama auze club ingine na sianga mahali, people will sell whatever they have to sell and pay.
When the deal was cancelled, there was confusion if there was a deal ever signed between Adani and Ketraco. And even CS Finance wasn't so sure if there was a deal or not. Ketraco says there was a deal. And if there was a deal and that deal, you've cancelled that deal, then if you've signed a contract, then naturally you are supposed to compensate the person who signed that contract.
Yes.
Unless, like they say, Adani now is the one on the wrong. You know, they did not disclose some of those issues that were found out in the US. And so that is the argument of the government, that because that Adani is the one on the wrong, then they will not need to compensate. But that it will hugely depend on the goodwill of Adani. If he insists that he wants to be compensated, Fanyamambo tax will go and compensate him, because the fact is there was a contract.
Yes.
And fact is the government that has cancelled the contract, and Adani was ready and willing to execute that contract.
What contract was there? You see, I've always said, and it is very clear in our laws, that number one, there has to be public participation before some of these things are signed into law, within a very short time and executed very quickly. But somehow on a bill of 230 billion, they forgot to do public participation. Even in one MCA ward, they didn't do public participation on Adani. We are not aware, we have not seen it, we have not signed it, we did not consent to it. It was not approved by the public, and therefore that was a private deal done by private people that should pay from private resources. It is that simple. And that's why I'm saying in court it will not stand. Let me tell you, Obuya, in court it will not stand. If there was any document that was signed in secrecy, why should we now start paying publicly?
Fact is, JKI needs a facelift. Fact is, Ketraco might need those others to go up and to ensure that the stima iko kila mahali. So, and the fact is that we don't to take the loans that we've been taking to finance some of these things. And so private partnerships could work, but the government must involve the Kenyan mwananchis from the inception to the end.
When you looked at the body language of the president during the State of the Nation address, you could see he was at pains.
He was actually. And I listened to him, and one of the MPs asked me, this is supposed to be a state of the nation. Was President really thinking right when he was talking about all those things? Because as of now, the state of the nation is that Shu is collapsing. The state of the nation is that the university education is non-existent. The state of the nation is that people don't have money in their pockets. That's the state of the nation. But the president was trying to paint a very glamorous and good picture that we are doing so well, and that in the near future Fanyamambo atakuwa ananitumia kakitu atakuwa anakaa hivi na change kwa mfuko, anasema ndugu kula hiyo Friday na ya kutoa pia na tu.
No, I think Jeff, first and foremost, somebody lied to Kenyans that you need to expand JKI. Let me tell you, the United Kingdom, if people need to look at some of these things, that country is 243,000 square kilometers. All of it now the United Kingdom. And it has about 144 airports. That thing is less than half the size of Kenya, which is 583,000 square kilometers. How many airports do you have in the country? What I am coming to is, first, you have some airports that are grossly underutilized. How many aeroplanes land in Eldoret, for example? That place, most of the times, there are birds on that place. It's grossly underutilized. Moi International Airport in Mombasa is gravely underutilized. If you have a plane bringing tourists from Italy, why does it need to land at JKIA? It can land at Moi at Wanzane na beach mapema, because eventually they end up going in tour tracks to Mombasa. Isiolo International, it's no longer international, I don't know, airport. There are pickups killing people running with Mira, trying to run to JKIA because Mira must fly from JKIA. Why? And some of it is going to Mogadishu. Why can't it fly from Isiolo? So you first congest the airport with nonsense. You congest the airport with flights that should not have landed there. And then you start saying you need to expand JKIA. What you need to do is to expand the brains of the people running the airports in this country. Their brains are too narrow. Expand them first to start seeing that Eldoret Airport is grossly underutilized. And something can be done so that we first divert some of our flights there. Mombasa is grossly underutilized. Isiolo is not doing much. What is happening? People say there is an airstrip at Marsabit. What's going on there? Why don't we have something in the western region? So the fact that a country less than half the size of Kenya has got 144 airports called the UK. And by the way, you keep saying these people are only 63 million, 64 million. We are about 53 million, only 10 million shy of the UK population. Yet they have 144 airports. So we need to start thinking as a nation, what is wrong with us? Mtu anakuja kuambia you need to expand your airport. You're telling us as who? We don't need to expand our airport. We need to start expanding our thinking of how we think about airports and how we manage them and how we run them.
Yeah, but don't
we
forget,
have enough spaces and we can be able to do something. We don't need Adani to start moving Miraa from Isiolo to Mogadishu. We don't need Adani for that. We don't need Adani to tell us that we don't have to have pickups killing people along the ways in a rush kuleta Miraa JKIA na munasema JKIA is overworked. We just need common sense that this Miraa can fly from Isiolo. And a lot of things that come, horticulture, comes from Naivasha. It's closer, waende to Eldoret. That place is for horticulture and everything. Why are we flying flowers from JKIA? It's common sense, Jeff. So first, before you talk about expanding airports, let's go into the brains of these people and slap them a bit so that we expand the brain and the thinking and we change the way we are doing things.
Panyamambo, how do you abduct a very prominent Ugandan opposition leader in broad daylight in Nairobi?
It's unfortunate. It is contrary to international law because we are not told he sneaked into the country. He entered this country through the regular channels. So it was known that he was here. And Museveni, if you were looking for this fella, you should just have looked for him when he was at home. I mean, when someone walks into a country the normal way, checks in the normal way through the airport, does not hide anything, declares himself, is living in Nairobi, I mean, they should have told Museveni, wait for this guy to end his stay. And again, in international law, if I run away and go and seek refuge in a certain country, that country is not supposed to extradite me in that particular way. In fact, the worst case scenario is take him to another country, but you can't take them back to where they are coming away from. So that was unfortunate. It was unacceptable. He had not shown to be any threat. They didn't find anything on him.
Oh, they claimed those firearms.
Okay, let's say he had a pistol or two. In the grand scheme of things, surely, what would an old man in his 60s do with two pistols? Yeah, how many people would... What national threat? I mean, we always get thieves being caught with two pistols and a machete, and then they say they were fake and all. It's not a threat to national security, Jeff. If we were talking of some guns we had were found in some address somewhere that has a bunker, automatic rifles, then that is something. But if the guy has a pistol or two, which I believe even when he was coming he may have declared and so on and so forth, I don't think that's an issue. The issue is even if he had two pistols and then they say he had one assistant, so an old man with one assistant is a threat to the nation, and maybe an old pistol, maybe 10 rounds of ammunition, how many policemen would that kill? I think that was the joke of the year.
President William Ruto is also one paranoid president because when the interests meet, they come up with a plan very fast to arrest Besigye, or is it abduct? Because even Besigye is not the leading opposition candidate right now in Uganda.
Correct.
There's Bobby Wine who is a leading opposition person there, and so I think it's just paranoia and this thing. The other day we saw activists from Uganda also being abducted in Kisumu when they had come for some lessons in democracy, and I think Museveni should outgrow this paranoia that he has. And he's my neighbor. We cross there every time we are in Busia, but I think the paranoia is just too high.
I mean, sometimes when I'm driving into Royal Media, if I come across one that's coming in here, I get thoroughly worried because so it's one car that even Kenya, because ukiona imegongwa iko na dent, very many Kenyans are afraid of that car,
and very tinted windows.
Yes. So I think I don't know. This culture of abduction, and I have always submitted to this government, is painting them in a very bad light. And I'm glad it was addressed during the presidential address, and I hope they mean it. Because they need to start saying, call someone. Murutu, we want you. Present yourself. If you don't present yourself, it's a different story. But a situation of having to come for Alfred Keter with his wife and children in the car in the middle of the road on a Sunday and carrying him in that way, I think it was unfortunate. Yeah. Because Alfred Keter is a known person. He's a member of parliament. They know even where he lives. I think it would have even been more decent to call him and tell him, utakuja ama tukukujie. I think he would have presented himself.
But
speaking of which, Gachagwa's security has been withdrawn again.
You saw what happened in Moranga.
Yahoo.
And if you meet with someone from Moranga, give them a high five. Tell them good morning, good afternoon. You've copied the script from Embu very well. and the reason we are saying that is they are saying they don't want to hear this speech from Kindiki.
And from
the president. They have already made up their minds on what they want to hear and what they do not want to hear. And I think that's what the president should be listening to. I mean, withdrawing Gachagwa's security only increases sympathy for him.
Yeah.
It only draws him closer to the people. And it only makes people want to support him even more. And it makes people hate the president even more. Some of these moves are very ill-advised. Removing his security now. And then again, I have said it on this show before. When you are Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, there's a lot you get to know about what happens in the country. And that's why I was saying, now, God forbid, people who have ill motives against this nation, if they abduct such a person, because abductions are happening and the police are saying they are not in charge. So other people who are in charge can come and abduct him. And I pray they don't. And they take him somewhere and they are burning him with cigarette butts and asking him, how many helicopters does Kenya have? Which ones are green and how many are purple? And so on and so forth. It would be a very unfortunate point, because then a lot of our security information would go out there. Because you cannot be deputy president for 2 years and you have no idea of what's going on within the security sector. He knows how many troops we have by now, how many policemen we have. He even knows how many police stations Kenya has in total. You don't leave such a person exposed. I think for the sake of the nation, protect Gachagua. Politically, you may think you are scoring by intimidating him, but for the sake of the nation, protect Gachagua. And I've always made it clear, he's not my friend. I have never voted for him. I didn't want him. But when it comes to doing the right thing, provide him security for the sake of the nation.
Obuya, is he Kenya's now official opposition leader?
The fact is that Gachagua, I think, even if I think he's enjoying what is happening right now. When the security is with the drone, he wants to speak about it. When they are following him with the Subarus, and like I'm saying, sisi wametuharibia sana sisi watu wa Subaru. When they follow him with those Subarus and he speaks about because the mountain is listening. The mountain is listening, and I don't know what magic Kindiki is going to use to try and turn the tide, because now he's the main man in this government from the mountain. I don't know which magic is going to use, but as of now, in a funeral, Jeff, a funeral is a very sad moment, but for a person to stand up and say this is the speech from Deputy President Kindiki, and people tell him no, stop, just stop there, and he was trying to insist to read the speech, and the pastor just told him, please be humble, stop it.
Wacha nayo.
Na mtu ya barua aliona hivyo, akaona mimi sisomi ya president, akasema hata ya president ndio hiyo, akapatia familia. So I think the mountain is very hostile right now to President William Ruto. Is very hostile right now to all those MPs that voted to impeach Rigiji, and the president is going to have to do a lot of work to try and turn the tide. He is supposed to be nominating the CS for Interior. I think bado imemshinda, ajui ya nominate nani. We were expecting we were expecting that he will nominate those names last week before the State of the Nation address. He didn't. We were really hopeful. The grapevine was that the names are coming, but they did come. Did the name Jeremiah Kioni feature in there? It has been mentioned, but that will be a very weird appointment, to say the least. Jeremiah Kioni to be the CS Interior. To me, somebody said it, but I think a CS was quoted actually. That Jeremiah Kioni could be the one coming in as a CS Interior. the original plan was for Chungwa to take over.
Right.
I think because of the politics that are surrounding the mountain right now, I don't think the president will want to go to a by-election in Kiambu right now because he's going to be whitewashed, and that will be very, very embarrassing to him. And so I think because of that, the matrix have changed. So far, we still in darkness. There's been a talk of Kiunjuri to take over. There has been talk of Mutahi Kagwe to take over. There has been talk of Aisha Jumwa to take over, or Madividi, the designated survivor, to continue to continue serving in that position.
But there's someone from Central. Does that change anything?
The barrio is a very sad event, but there is something even sadder, if I was to use that word. To listen to Kindiki's speech is sadder than being in the barrio. To listen to the president's speech is saddest. So people chose not to listen to those two because they would have really mourned. It would have increased the amount of grief magnanimously. Tenfold. So you don't bring a maombolezi into another maombolezi. But it also goes to tell you something about Shisha and Taifa Care and everything. This is one person they had spoken of very nicely as a gallant son of UDA. Yet, at the point when he was in hospital, the Shisha and Taifa Care were not paying for him. Those people were doing fundraisers every other day, including the party itself, to help one of their own, because their own medical care cannot take care of one of their own within UDA. Now that goes to tell you, if it's not working for the late, may he rest in peace, was he called Mark? If it's not working for the late, may he rest in peace, how is it going to work for Kenyans? Because that was it was a slap on their face, that nyinyi munasema kuna Shisha na whatever, na kuna mheshimiwa wenyu hapa ambaye munasema munampenda sana, and this Shisha and Taifa Care could not pay anything for him, and they were doing fundraisers for a very long time. So that is a very sad affair. But coming on to what you were asking about CS Interior and where he should come from, as Kenyans right now, we don't care. Because it has been proven that the work of the CS Interior, number one, is to abduct people. Because all the police fall under him, all the Subarus fall under him. So do we want one of our own leading the abduction of people? I don't think it is very wise. Until this ministry changes and becomes a ministry that protects people, and not a ministry whose men are the ones who are carrying Besige out of the country and saying they don't know who did it, then it's also a ministry of lies. So do we want one of our own heading a ministry of lies? I mean, there were demonstrations, and this ministry was in charge of spilling the brains of young people on tarmac, and we still feel very bad about the events of June this year. Who wants to be in charge of that ministry? If you ask me, take that ministry to whoever else. As Mount Kenya, we feel that that's not a ministry that is ideal for us right now, because hata ndio itakuwa inatesa Gachagua wetu. Sasa amekuwa wetu, hiyo ndio itakuwa inamsumbua na kumnyang'anya security.
Sasa amekuwa wetu.
Sasa amekuwa wetu kwa sababu unajua tulipeana kwa hii serikali Gachagua akiwa live and fit and okay. And then hata waliturudishia akiwa mgonjwa Karen Hospital. Sisi ndio tulienda. Adani wa Mushomba was crying. Na hata hawakumpelekea Lukoze dama Raibina. You know there is someone is sick, hata maua tu ile ya pale Nairobi Hospital.
Yeah.
Okay, Karen Hospital hakuna watu wanauza maua hapo nje. But you know you can cut some flowers along the way. Karen there are so many. Hata hawakuenda kuona mgonjwa wetu kwa hospitali. Kwa hivyo kwa sasa Gachagua amekuwa wetu kwa sababu amerudishwa akiwa maskini oyahe na hana mbele wanya mima, hana chake, hana security, na anafuatwa na Subaru. Sasa amekuwa kama sisi tu.
Yeah, ni raia.
Sasa ni raia. Kwa hivyo
anatembea kwa matope.
Na anatembea kwa matope. And I want you people to go and watch those clips. The people of Mount Kenya. Unajua Kikuyu anasemanga zitoke na wenyewe. Nataka zitoke na wenyewe. By the time they are doing another 2 or 3, if they are going to do more. One thing is they are galvanizing Mount Kenya in the name of peace caravans. And then those people, when they come, they start singing Mau Mau songs and they start singing Must Go. They are always singing Must Go. So whatever they are trying to do with those peace caravans is going to be counterproductive. It will promote Rigiji more. It will promote hate against this government more, and it will give people an opportunity to actually vent and show where their hearts are and where their minds are. If I was the one funding those caravans, I would stop. But if they want to continue funding them every weekend, let them continue. Rigiji will keep appearing, hata kama anakatazwa kuongea, anaapia, they gets the cheer and goes home. Kukamua na nepia grass ya wenyewe.
When we said these things before the 2022 elections, they called Baba all sorts of names. And
Yeah.
they called, forget even about Baba, they called Uhuru Kenyatta all sorts of names. He was a traitor. He was a Mlevi. He was, all those negative terminologies that you can call somebody. Right now, Uhuru is a darling. Why? Because, and Uhuru said these things. Anyway, I remember, I don't know Kikuyu, but I heard him saying, anyway,
My
guy. He said these things, and he warned them.
Yes.
And they believe that because they are the only people who can make a decision and propel the country forward. They made the decision. They made their bed. Let them lie on it. Let them lie on it.
Let them lie on it.